Hello, I'm feeling really inspired today to come on and talk to you guys about an issue within open relating that I've been navigating recently. What it is this part of me that feels like a trigger that comes up within my body rather than within my mind, and how I've learned to separate those as I've got clearer and cleaner with my communication within myself and also with the people in my life. So what comes up is that I am now starting to notice the difference between when something is triggering me in my mind and when something's triggering me in my body. So as an example, with my partner that I do life with, I had a trigger come up that I felt was really not in my brain. So I feel really good about this connection that he has with this other woman, and what was coming through for me was that there was like a burning sensation in my left ovary, and what was coming through there was that there was almost like an anger in my body around something that was coming up, and I was like not really trusting that intuition that I was feeling, because I was like, no, like it's just my body playing tricks on me, and I feel really good about this, and I don't want to be controlling or manipulative, so I don't want to speak into this trigger. And really what was coming up with there was a lack of trust for myself and a lack of trust for my body's wisdom, even though that is what I teach and what I preach and what I talk about every single day. And that was the lesson in it, basically. It was just like, how can I learn to actually listen to what's in here and align it with what's in my head. So what happened was that intuition that I was feeling in my ovary about something that was happening in his relationship actually ended up coming out to be very, very accurate. And what I noticed was I was actually able to separate my trigger then. So back in the day when I was starting to do a lot of open relating, I had a lot of different triggers that were coming up, and they felt like very mind orientated. So I would feel like something was out of alignment for Danny and one of his connections. Danny's my partner, and one of his connections. And what I would do is I would feel like this really icky energy, and I wouldn't be able to pinpoint where it was in my body. I wouldn't be able to pinpoint why I didn't like it. I would just do things that were like manipulative to get the outcome that I wanted, or I would just show up very insecure or something like that, and use my ability to communicate what I wanted to get what I desired in a very manipulative way, in a very controlling way. And as I've grown up and I've started to get clearer about what is intuition and what is control and what is happening in my mind and what's happening in my body, I've been able to state things without being manipulative. So when this intense like anger was coming up in my ovary, I was able to say, yeah, this is coming up for me, this is what I'm feeling, but I feel really good about your connection with that woman, but I'm wondering if I can't actually trust her body and what's going on for her on a biological level. So with open relating, we have our three brains. We've got our reptilian brain, we've got our limbic brain, and we've got our frontal lobe. And for open relating to work, our frontal lobe has to be switched on all the time. So when we're acting from this primal space, we're acting from an animal nature. And what my trigger was happening with this woman was that I could feel like her primal reptilian brain nature was actually calling in Danny to impregnate her. There was this intuition in me that was like, I don't like that, and then that's controlling because I should just trust whatever arises to unfold in the way that it's supposed to. Actually, what was happening was I was attached to the idea of how Danny shows up in my life right now. So I have a vision that he will be the father of my children one day. And what I was judging myself on was that I was trying to control that by not wanting him to connect with this other woman. And what was really the truth is actually I didn't mind him connecting with that other woman, but what my body was wanting was to bring that into the space, that there was an awareness that I felt like she may be at a stage in her life, she's around 30 years old, of where her body is desiring a child. So even though I'm in a brain level, like in her frontal lobe, and when she's thinking and when she's feeling and she's in her emotional body, she doesn't want a child. Her biology may have been calling in a child. And what I noticed was I was actually projecting this into their space and into their relationship, because it's something that I experienced myself. So for me, I definitely don't want a child right now. There's no part of my emotions that feel broody. There's no part of my plan in my life that wants a child. There's no part of me that thinks that would be a good idea for me right now. But the week that this trigger was coming up, I was experiencing this pain in my ovaries, and I was experiencing, at one point Danny came and put his hand on my belly at one point, and I was like, oh, baby. And my biology was almost like calling in this, like calling in to have a child. It was like, because I was in this part of my cycle just after ovulation, just before the bleed, where I was in the last opportunity where I could procreate in that cycle, and my body was like mourning the fact that I hadn't been impregnated during that ovulation. I'm 27 years old, and I feel like this is like a new feeling that's coming up for me, because my body is in the prime of when I can have children. So it's just been a process of me honoring that and feeling that in me, and noticing what's my stuff and what I'm projecting into their relationship, and what my boundaries are around that. You know, our conversation came up around, you know, if they were to see each other for some time, whether that could lead into unprotected sex, and my body was screaming like, that feels like a really bad idea, because if my desire is to have children with Danny later on in life, then that can create some dramas for me around Danny ending up impregnating another woman. So yeah, I was sitting with that information and feeling into how do I show up in authentic communication with him without controlling the situation or manipulating the outcome. And what happened for me was that I got really real about what my truth was in my body, and what was happening in my mind. So often when people speak into boundaries, they have this idea that their boundaries need to be very assertive, like, it's a no, it's a definite no from me, and it's like this real like fuck off energy with this no. So an example with my one, it would have been like me showing up and being like, Danny, if you go and have unprotected sex with this other woman, then I'm leaving, or I'm going to be moving into the other room, or whatever it is. But actually my communication, when I got real to it and really sat with it, was, okay, so if I don't want to have control over your body, and although I feel a little bit of discomfort inside of myself about you, a little bit, my ovary was burning, I felt rage and I felt discomfort and I felt angry in my body about the thought of him having unprotected sex with another woman. So I really actually sat with that emotion in my body and processed it with myself, and then I got real with what was happening for me, and I expressed it to him by saying, I've realised that if I ask you not to have unprotected sex with her, then I'm creating a rule for your body and how you treat your body, which means that I'm not in alignment with my values, because my values are that you're an autonomous being. So to stay in alignment with you having your autonomy and me showing up in my values and what I'm committed to, I want to let you know that if you choose to have unprotected sex with this woman right now, then I'm going to, what's real for me is that I may need to sleep in the spare bedroom for a few nights just to get clear with what feels right for me, and possibly start having protected sex with you, and honour that our relationship may change and unfold in a different direction to where it's at right now. Because where it feels like it's at right now is that it's moving towards having children in the future and building this life together. And to honour his autonomy and what his choices are, I want to really respect myself and what's right for my body. So if he was to have unprotected sex with this other woman, it might not feel right for my body to continue having unprotected sex with him. What my realisation with that is actually there was no manipulation, but there was a lot of clarity. And the way that I said I might go and stay in the other room for a little while and I may have to start having protected sex with you was not like, if you do this, then we're no longer having unprotected sex and I'm not going to sleep in the bed with you. It's like for compassion for myself, this is what I think I'm going to need to do. And that actually stays in alignment with my values as well, because my values are that I put my self-care first, and then I put Danny's care, and then I put our relationship. And Danny's is that he has himself, and then me, and then our relationship. So in that way, what we're allowing for is for us to put ourselves first, and not say that, like, you know, it's super important that we sleep in the same bed together every single night, because that would be valuing the relationship first and then the people in the relationship. And ultimately what I want is a relationship that serves the people and not the people that serve the relationship. Really what I learned out of this and what I took away from it was to really trust what's happening in my body and really learn to process it on my own, and process it by feeling rather than thinking about what was going on. And by creating a boundary that felt in alignment for me, and that boundary didn't come from a place of threat and manipulation and control of Danny. So as I've come to unfold this for myself, I feel like I've gained more trust for myself. I've created a much clearer container for Danny and I to have our relationship in. And I haven't controlled Danny or created any rules for how he treats his body and what he decides to do. And when we had the discussion of him having unprotected sex with another woman, I said, I don't want you to not have unprotected sex for accountability for me. I want you to not have unprotected sex with a partner that you don't know, out of integrity for yourself and what your values are. So if that is in alignment for you, to have unprotected sex without having the conversation or something like that, then that's your integrity for your body, and I respect that, because ultimately there is no right or wrong, only good communication. As I communicated that, there was this huge opening where Danny got to really learn for himself about what his integrity for himself was, and what he desired for himself, and what he wanted. And as he fell into that, he could get really clear about what was his and what was mine, rather than feeling like I have to do this because this is what my relationship needs and this is what Victoria needs. And there was a massive difference in that kind of autonomy to showing up with a place of manipulation and control in a relationship. Thank you so much for watching.